let's look at briefly how we can actually support that by using a workshop-based process. Vico has a whole host of these workshops. There are 9, as you can see, in total here. The first is the model progression specification. It's detailing how we are going to really generate a model that is going to be worthwhile using in the 4D and 5D process, so for extracting quantity information and being able to tie that to a knowledge base, and then using that knowledge base, so this is the second workshop, and pushing that into a series of, here, 4 different steps in the schedule planning, and this is the one that we're going to look at in more detail. Then the schedule controlling, so tying that in with production on site and understanding how we really can control the project. And then the last one there is the virtual design and construction contracts, all about how we can help build this language and ensure that it's something that you can tie subcontractors to, or essentially helping script that language to make sure that everyone is going to follow up with the promises that are going to be made by using these systems. So let's look at this schedule planning workshop set, broken down, as I say, into 4 different steps. First of all, we have a framework workshop, which is defining the location breakdown structure and the sticky note exercise. We have a knowledge step where we assign homework to be able to fill in the gaps, to make sure that we have all of the production information necessary in order to, at the next step, create the schedule. When we create the schedule, we're creating it based on a defined optimum size crew, but not an optimum number of crews, and that's where the stage of schedule optimization, in order to identify where the bottleneck trades are, what we can do to put the other trades, surround the other trades fitting almost like a jigsaw around the bottleneck trades, and ensure that we can get a more optimum plan in the process. So that's the schedule planning side of things. And just to introduce you to that, as I mentioned, the location breakdown structure is part of that, a very large part, because it's an extremely important part of the structure to the LBMS system, to the location-based management system. Funny that locations form a large part of that. Then we have the sticky note session, and to go into that in a bit more detail with the template that we use. Here is a sticky note that allows us to take a lot more detailed information than just a name of a task and a duration. You'll in fact see that on these templates we don't even have a duration. What we're asking for is the name of the task and the unit by which we're going to monitor. So is it going to be monitored by square foot, by linear foot, by cubic meters, by etc., etc.? What are the prerequisites? How do we release this work? And that's the above the line part that's done certainly definitely in the session, in the workshop. But we'd also like to collect this information as well. So this is the production information describing the type of resource. So is it a special type of resource? Is it just, so have we got laborers on this task? Is it carpentry? How many are going to be in that optimum size crew? So this is defining the crew. What the production information is, so from the productivity side, so this is breaking it down to the unit level, where we're saying how many hours of resource are consumed per unit. But if we don't have that information, or we find it more difficult to work out, then we could just make this into a production rate to say that we have a certain number of units per whatever work period, and then we can backtrack to find the productivity information for the number of hours per unit based on the resources that have been assigned. So that's the background to the sticky note exercise. This is a session where having a glass block wall comes into its own for a scheduling session. I think everyone would love to see these structured lines on the wall to be able to put the sticky notes up and make sure that the mess that we usually get doesn't occur. And how do we collect all this information together? This is the last step to understanding. We have a lot of data that can mean a lot of things for a lot of people, and the production wall is a way of sharing that information and showing people what the plan is, having a facility to understand previous performance, so production data, showing the metrics, showing the KPIs, showing what the plan is, and showing how the forecast hopefully has been corrected. This should show a revised forecast rather than the problems. And then having the weekly control chart broken down into the locations, into the days, so that people can, at the end of the day on Monday, literally come in and tick the box that they've been working in, and note whether it's been completed or not. And this data is so powerful. It's much more information than we're used to collecting, and it's much easier to collect as well. Then having the weekly work plans visually displayed and sharing who is planning to do what in what locations, and checking off the boxes to say what is completed in the week. And sorry, the previous week's percentage complete, plan percent complete will be shown. This week will show us and allow us to tick what we are completing as we are completing it. And then next week will show us what the plan is. So what have we promised, and how can we start thinking about putting those promises into practice. And in the bottom corner here we can see a very, very important part of the process, which is the location breakdown structure. And in each one of these lists, what we're doing in here in one of the columns is actually referring specifically to a location within this location breakdown structure, so that we know exactly what the work is and very precisely where the work is occurring. So bringing the data together like this is a very powerful way of sharing and managing that process.